Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communication and the Digital Economy, the Honorable Eliud Owalo. Good morning.
Morning to you.
Karibu sana to Kenya's biggest conversation again.
Thank you.
The last time you were here, we were talking about elections and the strategy of winning the election.
Yes.
Then we soon spoke about winning the election after you had won the election and the strategy of forming the new government. Now you're in government.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa.
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Thank you very much.
City has the day's proverb and he'll welcome you with the day's proverb.
Yes, our proverbs for the whole of this week are from the country of Lesotho. It's written Lesotho, but it's pronounced Lesotho. Why? I don't really know. Mheshimiwa, I will actually want you to tell me what you think about this proverb.
Yes.
When a ripe fruit sees an honest man, it drops. Yeah, that's what it is.
When a ripe fruit sees an honest man,
It drops.
it drops. Waziri, what do you make of this proverb?
That means it is ready for consumption.
That's what it means.
Yes. Yes.
I agree. We've been waiting for you.
Oh, good.
You've helped us tremendously.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah, when you see it, it's ready for consumption.
Yes. So it falls down without being prompted.
But why does it have to wait for an honest man?
So that the margin of risk is as narrow as possible.
Hey,
We don't want to take chances with a dishonest person.
you don't want to be eaten by a dishonest person.
The margin of risk.
Yeah, the margin of risk
Margin of
needs to be negligible.
You don't know what a dishonest person could do to you.
Yes.
To eat you the wrong way.
Yes.
Right. Waziri, we hosted your PS
Yes.
last week, and we were talking about the digital superhighway
Yes.
and the programs that are in place and the plans.
Yes.
And we want to continue that conversation because those are big things.
Yeah.
We keep saying the Kenya Kwanza plan is like a feast. It has five key
thematic
items.
areas. Yes.
Agriculture, affordable housing,
Yes.
MSMEs,
Yes.
health, universal health coverage,
Yes.
and all of them supported by this one,
Yes.
the digital superhighway.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You're the man in charge of this one,
Yes.
the digital superhighway.
Absolutely.
So, one of the things that we've seen recently, and I've got to start on that, is government services going online.
Yes.
And it's a big launch that was done just the other day,
On 30th of
at the
June.
end of June,
Yes.
where we said many more government services are going online.
Yes.
We even hosted a couple of years ago a president of a country whose 98% of services are all conducted online.
Yes.
Which country was this, Ndu?
Estonia.
Yes. The president of Estonia was here.
Yes.
And we've also hosted somebody else from Estonia. So going online, putting government services online, why is it important?
It is actually imperative. We cannot continue with business as usual. That's the direction the entire world is progressing to. We are today one global economy. We are one global digital economy. Almost everything is being undertaken online, and Kenya cannot be an exception. Let me put you just give you a bit of background so that we get the context right. In that Kenya Kwanza plan, as you have rightly put it, we have the key result areas of agriculture, small and medium enterprises, universal health coverage, housing, and then the digital superhighway as a standalone thematic area. And it was deemed so because ICT is not just an enabler to all the other key result areas, but it's also a critical success factor for us moving forward. Everything relies on technology. We need to re-engineer our manufacturing processes while leveraging on technology. We need to enhance our efficiency and effectiveness across all facets of the Kenyan economy. And this requires technological intervention. Now, when we talk about the digital superhighway, it's got various components. One, we at this point in time still have quite substantial proportions of the Kenyan economy not connected by internet. So one of our immediate concerns and objectives, which we have already embarked on, is to ensure that those parts of the country that hitherto did not have adequate internet connectivity get reliable, stable internet. And in this regard, we are rolling out 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable over the next 5 years. Our target as at June was 5,000. And we have surpassed that target, 5,000 kilometers. We have already surpassed that target. The next thing we are doing is to ensure that we connect, establish and operationalize a total of 25,000 free Wi-Fi hotspots spread evenly all over the country. And in this regard, we are, for a start, targeting the markets where our mothers and sisters are domiciled by way of itinerary trade. We want to not just reduce the cost of data, but ensure that where government can, we provide free internet connectivity to those involved in itinerary trade within the market so that they can leverage on technology for purposes of e-commerce. A fishmonger, for example, can host the product for the day, the fish for the day, on technological platform, and somebody in America can see what is available in the market that day. Okay? So we no longer need physical interface between the seller and the consumer of our product. That's the direction we are going. We are also connecting bus termini where our youth are predominantly domiciled, idling with no fixed abode, so that they can get into gainful economic activity. So that is another frontier we are pursuing. The next thing is the digital laboratories. We are going big on this. For a start, we are establishing the digital hubs in the TVET institutions and institutions of higher learning for purposes of digital skilling. Why is digital skilling imperative? It is imperative because as we roll out the infrastructure, there needs to commensurately, we must have a commensurate level of digital skilling to facilitate optimal uptake of the digital infrastructure that we are introducing in the marketplace. So we are starting with the TVET institutions of higher learning, but we are going a notch higher and also establishing digital laboratories in each and every ward in this country. And in this regard, we have got a target of 1,450 digital hubs right in the villages. How are we doing this? One, we have reached out by way of partnership to Parliament. So that we work with our members of Parliament by way of partnership so that they give us the facilities that will be resident within their domain as far as this partnership is concerned. They'll give us the facilities in terms like a classroom, for example, where we are going to set up. We want Parliament, the members of Parliament, through the CDF, to also meet the cost of electricity, some of those recurrent expenditures. From us as government, national government, what we are doing is to provide the connectivity, provide the technical personnel, provide the devices, train the youth, and we are also simultaneously or correspondingly going a step further to link up the youth with global technological companies for purposes of digital jobs. So the end game in this regard is not just the digital skilling. The end game is digital jobs. Why are we doing this? We are doing this because we have got limited opportunities for white-collar jobs. The space where we have got enormous potential in each ward, in each digital lab, for example, we can at one given go train and empower 300 youth. One digital laboratory in a given ward by way of digital jobs. On average, we have got 5 wards in a constituency, which means in each and every constituency, we can easily create a total of 1,500 jobs. We have had meetings with our members of Parliament, and they are seeing the rationale that as opposed to running from one government office to another trying to get jobs for the youth in their constituencies, we can create those jobs for them right there in the village.
In the ward.
At the ward level. This will be a game changer for this country. And it will have a ripple effect. One, you will not have the traditional rural-urban migration at youth level for purposes in pursuit of jobs. The jobs will be right there in the village.
Indeed. Waziri, seeing that each ward could essentially then have a digital footprint for young people to do work, for people in the industry, market industry, to then be able to trade better. Usually, the excitement about something like that then is met with the perennial issue of implementation. How excited are you about the implementation matrix for all of these things?
We have already embarked on implementation. Parliament, for a start, they have already embarked on the process of making the relevant or the requisite amendments to the CDF Act to enable them to utilize a proportion of that for purposes of meeting the recurrent expenditure, by, like, for example, meeting the cost of electricity for this. As we speak, on the free Wi-Fi hotspots, we had a target of doing 2 per county. We have surpassed that already. As we speak, we have already established a total of 421. Our target
Free
for the
Wi-Fi.
first year, free Wi-Fi hotspots, we had a target of 2 per county. That gives us a threshold of 94.
What's the radius of a hotspot?
400 meters. 400 meters. So we are at 421. In terms of the digital hubs, we had a target of 290 within the first year. We are at 174. So progressively, we are making a lot of progress. Now, the slow start was informed by financial challenges. You remember we came into government midstream the financial year because the traditional government financial year starts in June. We came into government in October, but we have gotten funding now. Yeah. By way of support from the World Bank to the tune of $500 million US. Yeah, we have already acquired that. Moving forward now, we should be able to roll out these programs much faster. Now, apart from partnership with the members of parliament, we have also engaged the Council of Governors through the ICT committee of the Council of Governors, because we want to move at the same pace at both levels of government, national government and county governments. If we are digitalizing within the national government, then we must also have corresponding digitalization within the county governments. We have reached out to them, we have had meetings with them, and they are going to provide us with the hitherto called polytechnics, that those facilities will also become digital laboratories.
Right.
On the free Wi-Fi hotspots, we have also agreed with the county governments that they'll help us in identifying suitable sites, the markets where we need to deploy. They will also provide security. They are also willing to come in and pay the cost of electricity, which has been a challenge to some of the markets. The cost of electricity for the purposes of the Wi-Fi hotspots. So what am I saying in short? That the digitalization agenda is not just a national government initiative. We are working in partnership with all stakeholders. If anything, we envisage that government should only be able to do a maximum of 48%. Okay?
At national
the
level.
private sector should be able to do the remaining component of 52%.
Okay.
A case, for an example, is the issue of the rollout of the fiber connectivity. As government, we are doing it as national government, but we are also partnered with certain parastatals which, based on their functional mandates, have already rolled out fiber. Kenya Pipeline is rolling out fiber. We have agreed with them on what they are supposed to roll out, the component and the timelines. Ketraco, Kenya Pipeline, Kenya Railways, Kenya Power. Okay? So we are doing it at different levels. In the private sector, we have got Safaricom, we have got Jamii Telecom, we have got Liquid Telecom. Again, we have had meetings with these people, these entities, and we have agreed on what components of the fiber they are rolling out and within the timelines. So we already have...
and it's on track.
And it is on track.
And
It's a
the
work
big
in
picture.
progress. We have agreed with them on the timelines, the components, the quantities, and the timelines, the performance indicators, which we can be able to use to monitor and evaluate whether
The
or
big
not.
picture, like you've said, is to make sure that the entire country is digitally connected.
Oh, yes.
And like you have told the MPs, let's avoid this thing of you have to walk, get into a matatu, traverse the ward, go to the constituency headquarters to find the sub-county commissioner so that you can apply for an ID. You can do many of these things
virtually.
Yes. So we have now all these services coming onto eCitizen.
Yes.
Mheshimiwa, eCitizen was hacked this week.
Oh, yes. And to me, that is not strange, because cyber attack is predominant the world over. We cannot stop digitizing our records and digitalizing our services because we are risk averse. What we need to put in place is an elaborate risk mitigation framework, which we are ready for anyway. There was an attack. We are addressing that. We are not just coming up with instant remedial measures to address the current situation. We are ensuring that around this digitalization space, we will build an elaborate risk mitigation framework for purposes of sustainable digitalization.
What does this attack look like, this latest one?
This latest one, what they did is that they tried jamming the system by making more than ordinary requests into the system. it started by slowing down the system. And then we addressed it.
So they haven't been able to access our personal information?
No data has been accessed. No data has been lost. Okay. Now, we have been proactive in that space as well, Eric. What we did, because we had foreseen this, we have established and operationalized the Office of the Data Commissioner and anchored it on law. To ensure that they execute the mandate of both data privacy on one hand and data security on the other. Apart from the Office of the Data Commissioner, we have also constituted a multifaceted team within government whose mandate is to ensure that in a proactive manner they are constantly monitoring the trends globally in cybersecurity, picking lessons from there, discerning the best case practices as far as mitigation against cybersecurity is concerned, and putting in place an appropriate risk mitigation measure. It is an entity that is continuously scanning the operational environment to determine the trends of cyber insecurity and making sure that locally here within the country we have an appropriate and an elaborate risk mitigation measure.
I want to ask a question before my colleagues come in. But still on this one of the cyber attack on eCitizen.
Yes.
You are also in charge of information and communication. Communication is big.
Yes.
Now, what of course happens is if I wanted to renew my driving license, to apply for a good certificate of good conduct, to apply for a new business permit, or all those services that are available on eCitizen, I try once, I find it's not going through, I think it's my data connection, I'll try again. So many of us will keep trying to refresh the page and exacerbating the problem, which is what the hackers wanted. Would it have been prudent for the Ministry of Information to communicate to the public, everybody please don't access eCitizen until we tell you to?
Yes, and this is what we are doing this today, because we are actually, forget about the first, even last evening, we had a similar challenge, which our technical people are addressing today. Communication is good, but communication also has to be strategic. There's a difference between communication and strategic communication. Strategic communication gives you the desired results. We need to commensurately communicate to the public, tell them what has happened, what we are doing, and what the framework we are putting in place moving into the future. But what I can assure Kenyans is that there is no cause for alarm. We have got adequate capacity to address issues of cyber insecurity. And in this process also, we are learning. Just like anybody else, we are benchmarking with best case practices globally as far as cyber insecurity is concerned. We have been in touch with India to see what they are doing in this space. We have been in touch with Israel. We are also enhancing our capacity within government. I don't want to say that we are perfect, because we should also be honest. We are enhancing our level of capacity within government to be able to mitigate against
maybe one small lesson you can pick from government and even from the private sector on this is crisis communication. Crisis communication has an escalation matrix and mechanism that says when a crisis occurs, at what point do you communicate? Do you wait 48 hours, 62 hours before you communicate, or do you communicate as soon as possible so that the affected people know what's happening and then they have confidence in the entity, that the entity is aware, the entity is handling it, the entity can manage our data?
That is one of the objectives or the outputs I wanted to achieve from this session today, to communicate to Kenyans and tell them that, yes, we have got a challenge on the eCitizen platform emanating from that attack, but we are addressing it. They should not panic. There is no cause for alarm. The system will be fully operational, if not optimally operational, in the course of today.
Yeah, so CS Owalo, aside from the hacking, which, it's very useful and important to know and to hear what's happening, what are the other challenges you anticipate in rolling out the program? And how have you, what mitigation plans have you laid out?
You see, anytime you are introducing a change program, there'll always be some resistance to change. Because there are people who are used to doing business the same way or operating the same way. There are also people who are benefiting from the status quo. Manual processes has got corresponding high levels of revenue leakages, for example. There are people who benefit from those revenue leakages. And the moment you are trying to seal them, they are bound to fight back. So what we are trying to do is to ensure that, for one, we have an elaborate communication framework around this digitalization space. People need to see the attendant benefits from digitalization. If the benefits outweigh the risks, then people will, in their mind, embrace the digitalization agenda. People must see that digitalization is imperative for the benefit of the country. It should not be seen as a punitive measure that the government is putting in place for perhaps some ulterior, some motives which are, It is for the good of the country. Look, if we digitalize, one, we are going to enhance the level of efficiency and effectiveness in service delivery. If we digitalize, we'll bring in more Kenyans who hitherto have been operating informally into the tax bracket.
Yeah.
Okay? If we do that, we will not need to increase, to review our fiscal policies to the disadvantage of the common mwananchi, because we can maintain the same level of tax levels, bring in more people into the tax bracket, and collect what? Collect more revenue. Yeah. And if we go that route, we should be able to, locally here, generate adequate resources to finance not just the servicing of our external debt, but we also be able to have surplus for purposes of meeting our recurrent and development expenditure. Good. Those are attendant benefits.
There is a concern that in the digital global expansion,
yes,
inequalities could be enhanced, and the measures you've brought out are great, about doing the labs, about trying to make sure it really penetrates.
Yes.
But there's still very low awareness.
Yes.
There's also the issue of the skills that are needed to get onto digital platforms.
Yes.
So what are the plans you have in terms of tapping, ensuring that the rollout is going to bring people on board and deal,
as opposed to excluding?
Yeah.
You see, our preoccupation is inclusivity in all facets. Financial inclusion and also digital inclusion. In the rollout of the Hustler Fund, for example, which is targeting those who are operating at the bottom of the economic pyramid, we have leveraged on technology to roll out that fund. And the purpose is to bring on board those Kenyans who didn't have access to finances for purposes of entrepreneurship and trade. So we are actually targeting inclusivity in that regard. We want to leverage in technology to facilitate equity and equitability in distribution of resources. When it comes to digital skilling, we are not just targeting the youth. We are also targeting members of the public. Because look, we are digitalizing government services. They are going to be on technological platform. There must be a commensurate level of digital skilling to facilitate optimal uptake of the digitalization program. If we are digitalizing but people don't know how to use the technology, then we are going to have a problem. So correspondingly, we have embarked on a major digital skilling program targeting the youth and targeting members of the public. We are also enhancing the level of digital skilling within government itself in line with our digital transformation agenda, so that we have got adequate digital skilling program. We have had the Ajira program. Now we have introduced the Jitume program. The Jitume program is where we are deploying devices. As we speak, we have about 23,000 devices which we are taking to institutions of TVET institutions and institutions of higher learning.
What are devices?
Like what you have in front of you.
Computers.
No, not the handset. I'll come to that.
Okay.
What you see, we have to train people. So we have to deploy training devices for purposes of digital skilling. Okay. It's a special aspect of computers which is geared towards the digital training. So we come and deploy in institutions of higher learning. We provide the training also for free. We are not actually supplying at cost. Government is meeting the entire cost where it can, but we are also getting free donations from the private sector. Like the 23,000 computers I'm talking about, we have gotten this by way of donation. Yeah, this is what we have been going around deploying in institutions, in the TVET institutions. Then we have, in partnership again with the private sector, we are doing training for free at no cost. And then correspondingly, we are creating jobs right there. Within 1 week, of training, somebody should be able to start earning, this youth. Through this program, the Jitume program, we are moving the youth away from job seekers to learners and instant earners. You earn as you learn.
Yeah.
In fact, it sounds too good to be true, but you may be shocked that when we launched the first Jitume Digital Laboratory at the Kabete National Polytechnic late last year, one of the boys who had just undergone that program for 2 months surprised us by saying that he's earning an equivalent of 200,000 Kenya shillings every month from digital jobs, right where he's seated.
In his house.
So through this program, the youth are able to learn digital skills. They are able to get digital jobs. They are able to earn in dollars, adequate resources to look after themselves, look after their younger siblings and their aging parents.
Okay.
Eventually, the direction we are going, or our target, is that once these youth acquire the skills, they should create further jobs by establishing their own digital laboratories within the villages so that they become entrepreneurs as opposed to job seekers.
Waziri, all of this, it's, again, very exciting. And there are people who are already doing this, isn't it?
Yes,
and as you've said, they are succeeding.
Yes.
But they are in the minority. Because the people who could actually benefit from it, the number of people who could, don't know. Which leads me then to how then you, as a ministry or as government, communicating this to the wider Kenyan population in terms of letting them know that these things are available, aside from it being a program on the website, for example. What awareness are you then getting into to make sure?
One, we are working with, in terms of communication, we are engaging all stakeholders in the public and the private sector and members of the public to ensure that we have got adequate level of sensitization so that people get to know that this program is available. And I use every forum as the cabinet secretary responsible for this function. Any forum I have, I talk about this agenda, the attendant benefits, and how we are going about it, and how we are carrying the public on board. You may have good plans, but if the implementation framework is not correct, then you run the risk of not carrying the people with you.
Yeah.
So one of the critical success factors in this digitalization agenda, one, is adequate levels of awareness creation and making sure that the stakeholder buy-in. We are engaging all stakeholders, and the approach we have taken is that our doors are open. We meet with different stakeholders, explain to them what our agenda is, how we want to go about it, and how they can also plug in. We want to carry everybody along, and we are going to do this up to the ground level. Now, you have talked about the people who are likely to benefit from this program being a minority. Let me tell you.
Who are benefiting currently are minorities.
And the risks. Yes. This program for the digital skilling program has the potential of creating 1 million jobs. As we speak, since October last year, when we came into government, we have created 109,000 jobs in the digital space. Correspondingly, we have trained a total of 336,000 youth in this digital space. And we are reaching out to the global technological companies. Everywhere I go, I was in India the other day, I was in Geneva. When we engage these global technological companies, we are telling them that we have got the capacity within Kenya resident in our youth. We want them to facilitate digital jobs to enable us fully exploit the skills, competencies, and capabilities that is resident within our youth in the digital space.
City.
When you talk about an environment in which e-commerce can thrive,
yes,
what would you say is the structure, the framework within which this very noble task is actually operationalized?
One, in terms of creating an enabling environment for e-commerce, one is the infrastructure. The infrastructure must be there. That's why we are doing the free Wi-Fi hotspots, for example. That's why we are training people so that they have adequate levels of technological skills. It must also be anchored on an enabling policy and regulatory framework, legal framework. And in this regard, one of the things we are putting in place is a national addressing system that will facilitate e-commerce. We are at a policy stage, which will eventually lead to a bill. We believe that if we come up with a bill and a policy and bill on the national addressing system, that will be one of the critical success factors in facilitating e-commerce. But for a start, the infrastructure has to be there. We are targeting the markets, for example, those operating at the bottom of the economic pyramid, so that we give them the very basic infrastructure for free as government.
I often wonder why it's called the bottom of the economic I really wonder, because it's where everybody goes. It's where everybody seems to start.
Yeah.
If you talk about, say, a marketplace, a typical marketplace, everyone goes to the market at some point or the other.
Yeah.
But now with this sort of framework, how do you then ensure that, one, whoever the would-be client to whatever wares are sold in this market has A, visibility of the product, B, is able to pay for this thing with ease, C, is able to receive this
the goods.
Yes. I want to end to end. Yes.
I want to use the most basic example.
Yes.
Assuming I ordinarily buy fish from City Market, for example. I don't need to walk to City Market to know what is. Yeah? The fish vendor there should be able to display the fish online. I should be able to see what fish she has for today. I should be able to place an order and pay for it using my phone from wherever I am. Subsequently, we should have a mechanism of delivering the fish to my doorstep. That's why I'm talking about a national addressing system. Put it on a border there, I pay for the transport, it is delivered at my doorstep. I don't need to have a physical interface with the person selling the fish.
True.
Yeah.
Now, do we have any place where this idea is in pilot form, where it has been shown to work, where the proof of this particular concept can be visible?
It's already working. Okay. Let me tell you, we have launched free Wi-Fi hotspot at City Market. We have launched free Wi-Fi hotspot at Modura Market. We have launched it at Kenyatta Market. We have done the same in Nyeri. We have done the same in Bondo. We have done the same in Ahero, in Kapsabet, several places in Elgeyo Marakwet. We have done the same in Bungoma, several places, and it is working. It is working. I think the deficiency we have is the communication, where it is already working. And this is something that we are addressing. It is already working. And we keep on monitoring the level of the activity levels. In fact, I'll shock you. When we launched the free Wi-Fi hotspot in Bondo, there are individuals who are on Zuku. They abandoned Zuku and migrated to the GOK free Wi-Fi hotspot. And these are prominent personalities, and they are still on that GOK platform, free Wi-Fi hotspot. As much as they are demonstrating, but they are also consuming the government services.
That prominent personalities in Bondo.
Okay. So, and we are monitoring. We don't need to chat about it. So we know it is working.
How do you track? That's fantastic. How do you track then over time?
Yes.
You talk about now you can see who's using
the level of economic activity.
Exactly. How do you track and say, based on this, this person in the market or this, shopkeeper is using and has used from end to end, because that would then essentially fuel your information to say, do we upscale? Do we maintain? How do you track?
We have got a team on the ground, an ICTA team, our ICT authority, and also CONSA team, who are constantly monitoring the level of our economic activity. So we know the baseline statistics, and we monitor the trends over time, and we match against the baseline, and we see whether there's an improvement or not. So this is a continuous process, because this digitalization exercise is only going to be useful if it leads to an improvement in the standards of living in the economy. Yeah? How are we leveraging on technology for purposes of e-commerce, for example, for purposes of economic development? If technology is not giving us tangible benefits, then technology is not necessary. So we must have a mechanism and a framework for monitoring, evaluating, and reporting
of all of this.
On all of this. And we have got what is called a digital infrastructure index. That you use to evaluate the impact of the digital infrastructure that you have put in place.
I must ask about schools. Because you talk about this being at a national level. COVID showed us a thing, isn't it?
It was a good experience.
Schools closed for 9 months. There would have been an opportunity for learners to continue with their education. But obviously because of the breakage in the channel of communication, digital-wise, that couldn't happen. And here we're talking about essentially connecting the country digitally. What kind of impact have you put in mind that would be realized for education? If schools, and we talk about the infrastructure already being laid, but then we also look at the end user infrastructure that, unfortunately, a lot of these institutions does not exist. I'm talking about laptops or devices in schools or even in the community. The wire can reach the community door, but you must connect it to something, right?
Oh, yes.
What plans are in place for that to happen, number one? Or at least on a national scale, for the purchase of this end user infrastructure to be affordable, because that would be something I see you getting involved in as well. Otherwise, the first tranche of what you've done then almost becomes useless if at the end we don't have the device, we don't have the computer, we don't have the community laptop, whatever that may be.
You know, for the digital hubs that we are setting up in the villages, we it's our responsibility as government, in partnership with the private sector, to provide the devices. And this is work in progress. We have already put in place a framework that would ensure that we deploy devices to all the 1,450 digital laboratories which I've talked about. Once we train these people, there's going to be a multiplier effect. Because, you know, they are getting trained, they are getting jobs, and they are getting money. So they'll end up setting also their digital laboratories in the environs of those localities, and there'll be a multiplier effect or a spiral effect as far as the digital entrepreneurship is concerned. So we are providing the devices. But there's one fundamental question that needs to be asked. You see, we have embarked on this massive digitalization program. When we came into government, for purposes of clarity, we only had 350 government services aboard the eCitizen platform. As we speak today, we have got 5,200 services already on the eCitizen platform, and we have also managed to identify a possible 9,500 services that can possibly be digitalized. And our proposition is that by the end of the year, about 9,500 government services will be fully onboarded on the eCitizen platform. So the question that we need to ask is, actually there are two questions. One, do we have the requisite level of smart enabled phones in the hands of the public to facilitate consumption of the digital services? As we speak now, there's a gap in the market. So proactively, as government, we have again reached out by way of partnership to the private sector. Actually, we have reached out to the telecommunication companies. They have formed a consortium. As we speak, there is already, for a start, local assembly of smart enabled phones which will be rolled out in the Kenyan market in August at a unit cost of about $40 based on feasibility studies that have been undertaken. That will be a major intervention in the market so that we have got a critical mass of smart enabled phones in the hands of the Kenyan public. So you can see we are being proactive because we have already detected that there's likely to be a gap as far as the device, the handset is concerned. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to create a situation where once we digitalize, then Kenyans do not need to physically visit government offices, which means they need to have the device, affordable device, smart enabled device in their hands. But two, the next issue is, question we need to ask, if we have got the government services technologically on the virtual platform and we have the devices in the hands of the people, do we still need to ask Kenyans to physically visit government offices to consume government services? And the answer is no. And that is why, again, we are saying that as government, deliberately and consciously, we are going to pursue a digital identity for all Kenyans. Digital identity.
What does that mean?
That there has to be a technological mechanism or a virtual mechanism through which the government can actually confirm that you are Eric Latif, as opposed to asking you for a physical identity card. And you don't need, as Eric Latif, to visit a government office to consume a government service.
Government service.
That's why we are calling it Gavam Kononi. You have the handset, the services are available online, consume government services from the comfort of wherever you are.
And the government on the other end can authenticate that
can
this is
authenticate
Eric
using
Latif
your
who
bios.
is seeking the service.
That you are actually the person you claim to be. Now, when I talk about a digital identity, there has been this perpetual misconception that we want to introduce the Huduma number.
Yes.
And I keep telling Kenyans that we are not preoccupied with the Huduma number. You can call it what you want to call it, but we have to analyze this issue from a conceptual perspective. That it does not make sense if a service is available on technological platform, if you have a smart-enabled phone, for government to ask you to physically visit the office. So we are basically making work easier for members of the public to consume government services from wherever they are. And let me tell you the rationale. For example, today, in that space of passports, those Kenyans who are resident overseas, there are some cost components of the passport issuance mechanism which necessitate that they physically visit Kenya. We don't need that. Yeah? Kenyans resident abroad there should be able to apply for and get a passport from there and even pay for it on the technological platform.
And a new booklet is delivered to them.
There's also been this misconception, for example, I want to give you another example, that if you are in America or if you are in Britain, then you are well off, doing much better than Kenyans here. It is not the case. Those guys are struggling just the same way we are struggling here. So if we are making the Hustler Fund available for Kenyans involved in trade here, any young Kenyan who has gone through education in the US and wants to venture into business should also equally be able to apply for the Hustler Fund from America, Britain, or anywhere else for that matter. That is what technology should be able to do. And that's the direction we are going. So in a nutshell, what
how
I'm saying...
How is this going to be done? Because if we talk about a digital signature, and it's not the same as a Huduma card.
No.
Huduma card, that's
you are a step ahead, Eric. I'm talking about
digital identity.
Digital identity.
Right.
What I'm saying is that we had that Huduma thing. That Huduma thing primarily was meant to come up with a virtual population database. An electronic population database. That is what it was intended to achieve. It may have been a good idea, but the implementation framework, if you ask me, was wrong. I'll tell you that as a change agent. Whenever you want to introduce change, make sure that you explain to people why that change is necessary, how that change is going to affect them, what their role is in that change program, and the end result of that change program. If they see that the benefits outweigh the risk, they will on board. Okay? They will embrace the idea and move along with you. The problem or the challenge that the Huduma number faced was, one, it was introduced at the wrong time, too close to election time. So people became suspicious of it. People thought perhaps it was linked towards to the election program. Yeah. So timing was wrong. Two, there was inadequate communication around it. That's why it failed, if you ask me. So what we are doing as we speak is to ensure that we have an elaborate communication framework about the digital identity. It has happened elsewhere. It has happened in Estonia, Belgium, India, Pakistan. Yeah. Kenya cannot be an exception. People should be able to consume government services virtually. But another thing which is very fundamental, we are not going to coerce anybody to have a digital identity. No, it should be voluntary. What we are going to say is that, well, look, all government services are available on technological platform. Okay? You have your physical ID there. The choice is yours. If you want to physically visit a government office to be attended to, go ahead and do it. But we are giving you this other option of consuming the government service from the comfort of wherever you are.
Which is more efficient.
Yeah, at no extra cost. We are just asking you to give us your biodata, and we are also assuring you that that data is going to be private and secure through the mitigation framework that we have put in place through the Office of the Data Commissioner. So the choice is yours. That's what they did in India. They did not force people to take digital identity. People onboarded because they saw the benefits outweighed the risks. And that's what we are going to do.
This sounds great, sounds exciting. Will the digital identity link to the elections? Because this became an issue in terms of the verification around elections. And then what will you do with performance once everyone's on the platform? These services are a bit maybe too fragmented, but also then there's the performance, which is a software issue. How are
performance in a government?
Yes, because there's the digital one way, but then there's the actual doing, the back end.
Yes.
And if that doesn't work as well, then you still have lags in the system. So I think the election.
I think you mean the execution of the implementation of the digital agenda.
Of actually the delivery of the service.
Yeah, the delivery of the service.
Yes, yeah.
You see, the purpose of digitalization is to enhance efficiency and what? And effectiveness. Okay? So, one, if a service was hitherto being consumed or being given to the members of the public within 7 days through the digitalization, we should be able to deliver it within hours. Yeah? And government, those in government should be prepared for that change program, that we must facilitate efficiency and effectiveness in what? In service delivery. And anybody in government should be able to embrace the digitalization agenda. Either you align or you ship out. There are no two ways about it. Yeah, that's the direction we are going. And we have got commitment from the highest echelons of government, exhibited by none other than the president, that the route we are going is digitalization.
And the elections, does it link up?
Which elections? We are not even thinking of.
Can we use that
the
to
digital
identify?
identity? Will I then be able to register through?
Oh yes, oh yes. So it's going to be a multifaceted.
So it will be linked to the election.
It will also be linked. That election is just one of the processes or programs.
It's a government service.
Yeah.
Waziri, thank you very much for joining us today.
Yeah.
Come again soon.
I'll come again soon. But before I go, I want Kenyans to start preparing for a different country. We are going to run a paperless government. It's not going to be business as usual.
How far are we from Canaan?
Very close. Assuming there are no crocodiles, all factors being held constant.
Are we at the banks of River Jordan?
Yes, we are at the banks. And assuming there are no crocodiles, we'll get to that.
And even if there are, you'll give us
we are going to run a paperless government. We are going to have digital jobs. Yeah. We are going to generate our own revenue locally. We will be able to service our servicing of our jet. We want to leverage on technology to position Kenya as the ICT hub of Africa.
Eliud Owalo is the Cabinet Secretary for Information, Communication and the Digital Economy. Thank you very much for joining us, Waziri.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Opposition leader Raila Odinga has said that he will not hold talks with President